excuse me, I'd like to recognize some people that made huge contributions for today's potluck. If you didn't see it posted on the wall near the kitchen, this is a number of you that contributed foods. Great Presbyterian tradition. There are 6 people we want to identify for specific contributions. Marilyn John contributed the hams that Matthias cooked. And in the kitchen right now, would you 2 gentlemen come out and, come on, please, please, please. Matthias made the wonderful hams. Joe was here yesterday cutting up the strawberries, 40 pounds of them, and he made all the biscuits for the dessert. So Joe and Matthias, thank you very much. Carolyn Stevens contributed her books, which are over on the side table. Any sales of those will go towards the costs of the celebration. Carolyn and John, thank you for contributing those. Susan and Mike's mother made the contribution that paid for the commemorative hymn. So that was Virginia Palmer. And we have all kinds of talented people. Where did she go? Kyung Cho. Did she leave already?
I think she might have.
Oh, these beautiful handbags that all of you will take one home with you were made by Kyung Cho. She's a member of the church. She's a professor in the School of Art and Design at UWM. And when you next see her, thank her for her generous gift. Okay, now for some fun stuff.
Thank you. How about another round of applause for Bob and his leadership getting the day organized and together. Thank you, John. We have a show and tell today, something to connect us from our past, living in our present, and all the way into our future. And I'm so pleased that so many people signed up saying, I have something to share. Something that sparked a memory. So today, actually, the first person on the list is someone who is very devoted to the history and ministry here at North Shore Presbyterian Church. I know that he was very excited about being here today, and we are glad that he is as well. So Jim Norton, will you please come forward?
Follow you?
Yeah, follow me.
Sure.
That's that.
You hear me? All I gotta say is, wow, unbelievable, unbelievable. I have looked forward to this for the last 4 weeks or so. And knowing that I was coming to a place that I was really, okay.
Put the mic closer to your mouth.
Is that better? Okay. So I'll just repeat what I said. No. But I am very honored to be here, and I just want to say one thing. I belong to a church in Georgetown, Texas, and it is a Presbyterian church much smaller, about 105. Great, thank you. About 105 people. And we don't have an organ. We have a piano. And I heard the organ today. I heard the choir today. And man, I've not been to the Mormon Tabernacle to hear the choir there, but you in my heart at this point are really close. It was tremendous, and I really appreciate that. It was great. I am honored to be here. I have thought about what I'm going to say, and I've got a few notes here. And I want to start off by saying that I'm going to talk to you about, first of all, about two men, Mr. Arthur H. Bartlett and another man called, who I know, he's kind of distant, Harry Norton. Arthur H. Bartlett, living on Prospect Place, watched children playing on Sunday morning and thought they should be in church. He organized a mission Sunday school with the help of members of Westminster Presbyterian Church that met in his storefront on the corner of Capitol Drive, formerly Atwater, which I didn't know before, and Stoll Avenue. I had some friends living on Stoll Avenue, so I know Stoll pretty well. Then that was basically 1922. 1923, the first official meeting of our church was held, as you well know, on June 16th. 32 adults and children joined the newly organized Shorewood Presbyterian Society as charter members. Dad had the honor of being the final charter member to pass. He was 150 weeks. He missed 101 by 2 weeks. But he was joined to this church. I remember the last time we were here with my wife Linda, he was sitting over in a big chair and people were coming up to him and talking to him. He was like a king. He was sitting over in a big chair and people were coming up to him and talking to him. He was like a king. Happening and what happened in church and so on. Mr. Irving E. Norton, Mrs. Elmira Norton, and Mr. Harry Norton were in that first service, January 16th, 1923. It's a long time ago, but it's nice to be connected with that. I also wanted to bring to you what is the difference between things in the United States in 1922 and this time that we're in right now. Let's look at, first of all, life expectancy. 1922 was 54 years. Today, it's 77 years. And I'm really glad about that. Today, it's 77 years. And I'm really glad about that. The average income in 1922 was $2,100. Average income at this time is $54,000. Yeah, there's a little inflation in there, but a major difference. New car costs $400. Now you can buy a new car for only $47,000. New house, $7,000, piece of cake. Now the average is $400,000, and in some areas, like where Linda and I lived for a while in Bend, Oregon, housing prices have doubled there. Loaf of bread, 9 cents, 1922. Now $2.60. Gallon of gas, 11 cents. That's all I'll say. You know what it is now. Gallon of milk, 52 cents. Now it's $5.98. Gold per ounce, 21 bucks, 22. Now $1,800. Silver, $1. Now it's $22. Some of the inventions in that year, 1922. Car radio, ice cream bars, lead ethyl gas, push button elevators, insulin, and last but not least, helicopter. So a lot of difference between what things were in 1922 with what they are right now. And finally, I've been thinking about these a long time. Memories that I had in this church, and they are unbelievable. Long, long time ago. I'm in a whole different generation. And I'd like for you to meet some of my friends who are in this generation. First of all, my wife, Linda. She's sitting over here on the right. Hi, Linda. How you doing? A very good friend of mine, I found out today that instead of 81 years, it was only 79. Dex Free and his wife Bonnie have come from Illinois to be with us. And a very good friend of mine, a very good friend of Dad. Dad would not made 101 almost without Dan Catrone. Dan? And also, Dick, I'm not going to forget you. My brother Dick Norton, who has followed me for a lifetime, and his wife Marty are sitting here also. And it's really great that another generation is here and I could join them and talk about it. Memories include, well, I was first baptized August 1st, 1937. Pastor was Pastor Gray. I don't quite remember it, but I guess it happened. Sunday school, we met in the basement of the white church. And we had great teachers and a lot of people in Sunday school. I wish more of them could be here today to see what's happening. Strawberry Festival. Oh yeah. And without Mr. Dex Free's dad, the Strawberry Festival would not be what it is and what it was. He had all the ice cream for us. And that was just a great time. Dex Free. Thank you very much for that. Walking into this church with Harry, Harriet, Irving, Dick, every Sunday was absolutely terrific. It was a very welcoming church that really enjoyed everything that they did, and the people really did a great job for all of us. So memory was walking in, and what goes along with that, I don't think any of you remember my grandfather, Irving E. Norton, but he was a greeter in the back. So as people would come in, he'd talk to them. And he would yell. And we sat up in the third or fourth pew, and we could always hear Irving in the back, okay, yelling. And my mother said, does he have to talk so loud? And he did, but he did really a good job and lived to the ripe old age of 76. I also enjoyed sitting in the pew. My mom had a great soprano voice. I enjoyed singing also. I wasn't quite as good as Mom was, but I enjoyed standing next to her and singing with my mother. I had probably a tenor or a high bass, and standing with my mother and knowing that she was there for me also. I also had the honor of attending the dedication of this church, March 15th, 1952. Both Harry and Irving had a speech, and it was in March, and it was kind of a blustery day, almost snowing. But it was really good to watch this church grow up. I went to Charlotte High School, so I would walk by the white church and the new red church every day and watch it grow. And watch that church grow was really something to watch. Really enjoyed that. Mom and Dad were talking all the time. Dick and I wanted to get home and watch some TV, but Mom and Dad had to stay after the service, talk and talk and talk and talk. And we said, what did they talk about? How could they talk so long? But finally, after maybe an hour, we could get home and watch Tom Mix. Dad's here he was here in June, I think it was June 8th of when the church celebrated their 90th anniversary. And there was a television reporter here from WISN TV, and he was sitting down talking to Dad, and Dad loved it. Dad was kind of an open guy. He loved everybody, and the reporter couldn't stop him talking. So he was on TV that night, and that really made him feel good, as well as his kids. I attended Mom's funeral here in 2004. My sister-in-law Marty did a great job of talking about Harriet. I just couldn't do it. Marty, I've never thanked you, but God bless you and thank you for that. It was superb of what she said. I had one more thing I want to say about the choir. There was a gentleman by the name of Lytton Shake who had a tenor voice that just knocked him dead. And I would sit in that pew and just listen to him sing. And I was happily found a picture of Lytton Shake in Irving Norton and Reverend Hogue sitting there at a table talking about something. So I was able to see him again and also know what his full name was. I knew it was Lytton, but I wasn't sure what it was. A voice, wonderful. And finally, I came to my dad's funeral. Dad passed away, and his funeral was here in the church. It was in 2014, and I said I wanted to do something different. For those of you who attended the funeral, you can remember me up there with my fishing pole and my trumpet and my ping pong balls, trying to develop areas of where I really enjoyed Dad, and these are some of the things. It was a funeral I've never seen before, and I hope you who are sitting here have never seen it before either. And finally, I say to all of you who are now members of the church and who are leading the church, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor, and I will go back to Texas with a very warm spot in my heart for every one of you. God bless you all. Thank you.
How do I follow that? I guess I'm allowed on the stage. Bonnie isn't here to kick me off the stage. So. Okay, I'm Lisa Franzmeyer. I think I know many of you. My husband Scott is over there. My daughter Sophie, I have another daughter, Cassidy, that isn't here today. So my thought about connections was that the church, and ours, I think in particular, is one of the only places where you have multi-generations. And we were young parents when we came here, and having my two little girls, it was so wonderful having the older people in the congregation that would pay attention to them and have actual relationships with my little girls. And I just want to name off a few of them, and don't be offended that I'm calling you old. Some are still with us, some are not. Horace and Virginia Palmer, David and Lynn Kramer, Bob and Shirley Anthony, Dorothy Hoffman, Carol Jacobson, Sally Yarman, Carolyn and John Stevens, Sam and Lois Cashew, Keith Schmitz and Lana Kramer, Sally Von Briesen. Those are some of the special people in our family lives. And then also I was blessed as a deacon to be assigned a care person. Sometimes I think she took care of me more than I was taking care of her, but her name was Lois Tice. And I used to take my two girls, we went to visit her we tried to go like twice a month, and she was a very interesting lady. I think one time she yelled at Sophie for climbing around on her walker, and I was like, oh, I didn't know what to say. She put her in her place, but it was wonderful to have the older people of the congregation relating to the youngest. And lastly, I'm going to mention another member, Louise Sarabin. And I brought along a little prop, a little spice. One time when we had a vacation Bible school, we had this very room was made up like the streets of a bazaar in Jerusalem, I think. And Louise was set up at a table, and she was a lady, and she had like all the spices of what would be in Jesus' time. And the kids, they would call her then the Spice Lady. They didn't know maybe her real name, but she was the Spice Lady. And I'll never forget that. And I want to thank everyone that's here. Maybe I talked about some of your family members, but I thank you for being a part of our family and being so great to my girls. And I'll never forget it. And that's what I wanted to say about connections with the church. So thanks, everybody.
And talking about connections, about things that we remember, of course, being here brings all these memories. Let's give a round of applause to the kids who are bussing the tables, because that's what my kids did. Such a great thing. So when I saw the sign-up sheet for speaking, I really felt compelled to put my name down. Whoops, sorry about that. Not loud enough. Okay, better move my stuff so I can read what I'm doing here. Okay, so when Dan he just throws me off all the time. Like when he dumped a plate of spaghetti on my lap. Yes, okay, that's Dan. Family, it's all about family. So when I thought about what would I bring to share, whoops, okay, here we go. The first thing I thought of was this. This was given to me by Pastor Reverend David Fleiderer on December 11th, 1990. And it was when I finished as my first term as an elder. And I was raised Catholic, and so I had rosaries and I had catechism, but I had never had a Bible. So I can't tell you what this has meant to me over the years. It is just, this is North Shore to me. This is family, this is memories. So there was so much here because we weren't raised studying the Bible, but Bonnie Stafford taught me about the pillars. You know, you needed the Book of Order and you need the Book of Confessions, but you needed the Bible first. And that came from Bonnie Stafford. And so for my faith, I've added to my Bible. I add those prayer cards that you get at funerals and mementos. And the other piece that always comes with my Bible is the upper room. And the first time I ever saw this was at my husband's family's house. And it struck me as, oh my gosh, this is something that can touch me on a regular basis. And so for years now, my Bible and my upper room go together every morning with my coffee, which Bob is so gracious and brings me. So that's a wonderful thing. But even when we've traveling with some of the women from church, again, great memories. And, you know, the church women sitting around and reading our devotions in the morning. Again, memories. So, but as I reflect on all this and thinking about preparing, all these memories kept popping up, and they keep connecting me to the people we've known and loved through this church. And I think of Strawberry Festival when Bob and I first started dating. Zane Buxton, one of the past pastors, was the co-officiant at our wedding. When we chose to raise our children here in this church, we've made such strong friendships. You know, the Purcells, the McQuides, the Lassers, the Anellos, and it just goes on and on and on. you think about the Couples of North Shore activities and the road rallies and all of those wonderful, wonderful memories. Getting to know through those things, it was Helen and Bud Swanson who said, oh, can we older people come? And it's like, well, of course they came to the hockey game, and that's how I met Joanne and Frank Edwards. And then meeting Susan and Mike and Emily, again, all of these people that just keep us connected. But the role models for our children are another, as Lisa just said too, the covenant partners, Nancy Theo Harris and Ted Lasser and Mary Rice. And then of course the pastors, you know, we have Bonnie. The things that stick in our head is that Bonnie always provided the right thing to say, the comfort, when she assured me that Andy was going to be okay. My son, who was one of the only ones, I swear, who decided not to get confirmed. But Bonnie said, don't worry about Andy, he'll be okay. Now at 35, yes, he is okay, and I'm so pleased. But there's that. And then the joy of watching our children. And others of you might think of times when your kids were wandering around the church and they were free to play in the church. Laura, I can still picture her running up to the pulpit, and she's got something over. She goes, I'm Reverend Bonnie. And she was just so excited. And no one minded that our kids would roam the church. And it was just wonderful. And then there's also my whole Olin family and extended family and all of the relatives, because there was the joy and the sadness, the weddings, the baptisms, the funerals, the memorial services. And you as a covenant family have supported us through it all the time. And so this Bible holds more than the historical stories of Jesus and the Israelites and everyone, more than wisdom for living. It holds my memories of all that NSPC has provided to my family, to my Christian life. And for that, so much, I am so grateful. And I have to say that God has been so good and blessed us so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Dick Marcus, and my family joined in 1985. We came into the church not knowing that my wife Candy would come down with multiple sclerosis, but in '87 we discovered that, and we found it was harder for her to get her wheelchair up and down the stairway. And in 1994 we had a capital campaign. Instead of a chair lift that wasn't very effective along the sideways, we built the elevator and had the theme called that all may enter. And so when you go into the entrance over in the corner here, you take a look at that. I think it's been a good theme, because now all sorts of community groups, as well as church members, can use this church more effectively now that all can enter. Candy was apparently the first writer from the congregation. Carolyn told me. I couldn't remember that, but she was sort of the honorary spokesperson for that all may enter capital campaign in 1994. Thank you.
Explain this in a moment. Thank you very much. Whoops, I may have popped something, but my name is Lynn McCracken, and my husband Jim and I have been members since about 1994 or 98, I guess, because Robert was born at that point, and that's when we joined. This church has been our family for many, many years. It's been very satisfying. And I can't tell you the depth and warmth that we feel for all of you. And I'd like to tell you a funny story. And what's a good story without a prop? So we're going to start with this. Now, those of you who remember way back in the day, we used to have pew cards. Do you remember those? You would have a card and it said, I would like to hear a sermon on this. I would like to talk to a minister about that. And I would like a prayer for whatever. So one Sunday, our older son, who is not here and probably would have killed me if he was, but our older son had been thinking of life, and we had a friend who'd been hospitalized. So he sat down and wrote on his pew card, I would like to have a prayer for our friend who is in the hospital. And then a little further down, he wrote, I would like to hear a sermon on dealing with death. Okay? Now, most of the time, on a Sunday morning, the offering plate was where the pew card went. That offering plate came down our row that morning as fast as somebody who's going to win the Kentucky Derby. My husband very carefully put the card in, shrugged, looked at me, and said, please call the office tomorrow to give them the real scoop. I forgot to. I had a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. You can imagine that the days were a little hectic at that point. I went to a women's evening group later that week. Bonnie Stafford came up to me very gently, put her hand on my forearm and said, my dear, is everything okay at home? I said, yes, and we are in mourning right now, but what we are in mourning for is a goldfish. Bonnie and I talked about the miracle of transfiguration for a second. She found a way to give Peter a call that week and talk about the idea about how life works. And sometimes it's here and sometimes it's just gone. But the memory lives on and it will always be here. So, and please help yourself to some goldfish today. Thank you so much.
Told to hold this in my right hand. Okay. My name is Susan Palmer Jancy, and the only reason I put in my maiden name is because some of you may know some of the Palmers. My grandmother was Norma Palmer, who the library has been named after, and who worked in the library for many years. When I was growing up, we went to Trinity Presbyterian Church because that's where my mother had gone. And so during the summers, we came here so that we could go to church with my grandma and my Aunt Virginia, who many of you may know as well. Once I graduated from high school, my parents had decided that they were not as satisfied being at Trinity with the current pastor there, as well as it was a longer drive since we lived in Whitefish Bay. So then my mother and I joined the church in 1985. So then we've been coming ever since. I had a hiatus during which I was active duty military. So I still got to kind of have my picture in some of the old membership directories as lieutenant or captain or whatever the case may be. And then when I moved back after I got off of active duty, I was very happy to rejoin the church here. I can tell you that my mother sang in the choir at Trinity. My dad never did. He sat with me in the congregation to hopefully keep me in line. And then when we all joined this church, he and my mother joined the choir together. So that was something else that they could share together. When I came back, I joined the choir. And then when I had my daughter, Emily, she was a little upset that mom was leaving to go sit up front. That seemed like a long ways away. So I got back off of choir to be more of a mom. And then now that she's gotten older and doesn't really care where I am necessarily, I am back up in the choir. I can tell you that while I was on active duty and moving around the country, there was no church that I ever went to that had the music department and the music that we have here at North Shore. Most of that is kind of thanks to Jeff and his tremendous department and the music that we have here at North Shore. Most of that is kind of thanks to Jeff and his tremendous piano and organ capabilities. I know that Kathy mentioned about his talents for playing anything, and if you've ever been to a choir party, and many of you here have, you know that no matter what song you mention, whether it's pop, whether it's jazz, whether it's classical, whether it's a hymn, he can just sit down and start playing. No music in front of him, he can do it all. So that is one of the biggest things that I really am so happy to be back here to listen to the music from our program. What I had actually brought as my memory is, as many of you know, my father passed away last year, Horace Palmer. And so I have been very slowly trying to get through his house. Working full time does not allow me enough time to do what I need to do. But one of the things I found was this jar, which I know you can't see and nobody obviously can read, but it says North Shore Presbyterian Church, Christmas in the Colonies, apple ketchup. So I know many of you were here back in that day. I don't remember exactly when it actually occurred because I don't think I was here in town at that point.
December 7th, 1991.
Thank you very much. 1991, thank you. And so many of you obviously can tell much more details about it, but they made different kinds of things from the Williamsburg era and the Williamsburg time, which is obviously why we have all of our pineapples and some of those other things. But we didn't throw out a lot of things in my house, which is why it's taking me this long to get through my father's house. But this is one of the treasures that I did find, and I'm not making off the money that's in here, so just so anybody thinks but this was put on the table back there, and it appeared to be a great place to collect the money from the bags that Kyung made. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Rickebaugh. I'm actually here as part of the Deacons, but I am very honored to do this part of the program. My show and tell is some of you. We are incredibly blessed here at North Shore Presbyterian. When Lisa was talking about the older members who were a part of her daughter's lives, I'm older than her daughters by just a couple of years, 15-ish, possibly 20. Many of the names Lisa said are people that I see as honorary aunts and uncles, grandparents, mentors. And many of them we get to honor now when I ask them to stand if you are a 50-year member of North Shore Presbyterian Church. We thank you for your wisdom, your guidance, your commitment to our covenant family over the years.
Are you even 50 years old yet?
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you so much, Christine. And indeed, thank you to those who have the dedication, the passion for ministry, the stick-to-itiveness to live within a congregation, watching the Spirit move, ebb and flow for all those wonderful years. Thank you. In just a moment, I'll be inviting Carolyn Stevens up. Carolyn wants to share a poem with you as we close today. But before we do, I've been instructed to let you know we have ham bones available if you are interested in making pea soup. So please see the kitchen on your way out if you need a ham bone. Also, we will be serving strawberry shortcake dessert out on the patio. It turned into a beautiful day, so please stick around and enjoy some strawberry festival like strawberry shortcake dessert. And also, we have guests visiting with us, Matt Lee from Kettle Moraine Presbyterian Church. Hello. And Nikki Blanks from Delafield Presbyterian Church. Pastors Matt and Nikki are pastors with the Food for the Journey ministry, which now includes North Shore Presbyterian Church. Hey! So while we are out there enjoying our strawberry shortcake, we're also going to have a very short garden dedication service. So please do join us over in the garden area as well. Carolyn, please come forward. And as she's coming up here, once again, I would just like to thank all of those who were involved in making today such a memorable, thank you, and monumentous occasion. An honor, even as a transitional pastor who's only been here a little while and will be leaving shortly, I suppose, God knows. For me to be here in this moment and share it with you has been a true blessing. Thank you for that opportunity.
My artifact or souvenir is this book, which I had the privilege of sitting with many of the people that have been saluted today and interviewing them on their life. So I've got fantastic stories of Harry Norton, and there are his family members over there. Dan Crotone, who's in this book, for having helped Harry in his 90s to stay in independent living. We mentioned the beautiful Steinway piano came from Pat Snell, and it's here, it's in my book, and tells the piano isn't what Pat Snell is, and her wonderful husband. We've heard from Susan Palmer, and we've sung from the music of Virginia Palmer, and Horace Palmer is the quiet man who taught ballistic weapons in the Army. These people are all the great generation of our church, and so that I'm saluting the past in them, but now I'm saluting the present of those who are just seated among us today. I do not want to overlook anybody. Bob and Shirley Anthony, are you still here, dears? All right, those are the only ones left walking and talking with us that are in this book. Marilyn John was a close friend of Bob Kelly, helped cultivate him and take him to the theater to give programs out at the Rep or the Symphony, whichever it was. So she brings his present spirit. I don't know if Jean Marshall's son is here. Did he by any chance make it, Richard? Well, Jean just passed recently. She is in the book. Well, as I went through all these things, I came across the announcement on the bulletin board upstairs when I came to sign up for this dinner of Jean's passing at the age of 97. And I was privileged to interview Jean, and I went through the whole thing, wrote up the story, read her the write-up, and then she said she had to tell me the truth. And so I went back for a second interview, And she told me the secret that she had not revealed. She had kept it very secret. But the reason she didn't graduate on time was because when she was a girl, she contracted tuberculosis. She was taken out of school for 2 years and put in a sanitarium. And it had cost her a boyfriend too, who dropped her. And the doctors said she would always be weak. She would always be fragile. She had to be careful of herself. She should never marry, and she should never have children. And she gave me that secret to put in this book. And now she's up on the bulletin board. She lived to be 97. So good for her. So as I'm going through all these things, I'm feeling pretty sentimental about time, 100 years. And into my head one night, like a prayer, came Jim Croce's song. This little book is like time in a bottle. And this is what Jim Croce said. If I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day till eternity passes away, just to spend them with you. If I could make days last forever, if words could make wishes come true, I'd save every day like a treasure, and then again, I would spend them with you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know that you're the ones I want to go through time with. If I had a box just for wishes and dreams that had never come true, the box would be empty, except for the memories of how they were answered by you. But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know that you're the ones I want to go through time with.
Much, Carolyn. Well, folks, that concludes our luncheon program. I'd encourage you to join us out on the patio and over at our garden boxes. And just a reminder, in addition to ham bones, actually maybe nicer, you can stop by the table where Susie Pringle is sitting now on your way out and grab your tote bag designed by Kyung-Hae Cho and available here. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Let's go enjoy some strawberry shortcake, eh? Yeah, amen.